So the color wheel is basically done. I might go over here. I did this one with magenta and a little bit of green and went over, and this looks pretty good. I'm very happy. This is the part that gets very difficult. The orange and yellow, they just become very greenish very easily, and to keep them still looking like a darker version of orange and yellow is a challenge. So I am not too happy, however, with this one. What happens, let me explain something here. It should be perfect black, better than any black paint that you can buy. However, in watercolor, still we are not there yet, that perfection of pigment. Why? Because it looks very good. This is like pure magenta. However, it does have a slight bit of brightener. This Holbein PR122, the opera paint that they make. It looks perfect when it's in its pure hue. When it's mixed, it just starts to kind of deteriorate, and you can see that it's not dark enough, and it's not dark enough because this one has a little bit of brightener. Everything else is fine. So maybe in a few years they will be able to come up with a magenta that doesn't require a brightener to give this fresh, beautiful magenta. Otherwise, what happens is without the brightener, it actually dries a little bit darker than what magenta is supposed to be in reality. So that's why they add that, and it's not ideal, obviously. That's why we still end up getting a little bit of a muddy gray. You can see I mixed it here. This particular thing, it's better to mix it here. I'm going to do another one here just to show you. So here I am adding the gray, which is a nice dark gray, and while it's still wet, I'm going to go back with clean clear brush and extend this here to show the gray. You can see it is pretty neutral and nice actually, but sometimes it might look nice and neutral while it's here, but it can still have a particular bias. So I can see it needed a slight bit more of magenta and yellow, and I'm coming back again with a little more water. And this is also your opportunity to see how the paint behaves when you introduce water to the paint, as opposed to you go into just clean watery area. They kind of behave a slight bit different, and we are going to learn that in color mixing exercises. So this is pretty good. I'm still waiting for this to fully dry, but you can see when you apply it, you can actually see that it's getting darker. Yeah, that's nice. That's actually getting darker, definitely. And yeah, this part is wet, so I'm not going to go in there, because if I go now or anytime on a wet surface, I'll inadvertently pick up the previous paint, so and that will defeat the purpose. We don't want that. We want it actually to be a large quantity of paint sitting there, so it actually looks darker. However, we don't want a big fat thick layer the very first time. I see there is a little bit of magenta bias. I don't know if it's showing on the video. So that means if I have magenta bias, that means I need a little more green, which means I need a little more cyan and yellow to balance that. This is pretty good. I can see this was a little more this was a little more, and if this kind of things happen, that's totally fine for your color wheel. This is your artist's color wheel. It's not a digital color wheel, so you can go back and add gray and see how they layer and everything. And if you have too much, like I have too much here, what can we do? Remember, we can actually, while it's still wet, get rid of them. The color wheel is complete. I will probably I'll wait and see how it dries fully, and from what it looks like right now before drying, I need to balance this magenta bias here just a tiny bit, and otherwise it's all good.